It's showing preparing to live stream them. Setting up meeting.
Yeah. Take a picture to Kanan.
It's live now.
Okay. Please, everyone, share the link to your friends and family. Kanan, can you share the link in the chat?
Already I shared with you. Or easy go.
Even in the Zoom window, did you share that?
Yeah, I will do that now.
Yes. அனைவருக்கும் அன்பு வணக்கம். இனிய உலக மகளிர் தின வாழ்த்துக்கள். இன்று நாம் மகளிர் தின சிறப்பு நிகழ்ச்சிக்காக இணையத்தில் இணைந்துள்ளோம். நான் சுரேஷ் பழனியாண்டி, இப்போதைய செயற்குழுவின் தலைவர். மேலும் இன்று நான் இந்நிகழ்ச்சியை தொகுத்து வழங்கவும் உள்ளேன். மங்கையராய் பிறப்பதற்கே நல்ல மாதவம் செய்திட வேண்டும் அம்மா என்றார் கவிமணி தேசிக விநாயகம் பிள்ளை. அப்படி சிறப்பு நிறைந்த பெண்களின் பல திறமைகளில் இன்று நாம் பெண்களின் தலைமை பொறுப்பை பற்றிய ஒரு கலந்துரையாடல் நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு ஏற்பாடு செய்துள்ளோம். சிறப்பு விருந்தினர்களுக்கு ஆங்கிலம் மட்டுமே தெரியும் என்ற காரணத்தால் இனி நிகழ்ச்சியை ஆங்கிலத்தில் கொண்டு செல்லலாம். Dear all, greetings. Happy International Women's Day month. I am Suresh Palaniyandi, current president of Michigan Tamil Sangam. For this program, I am wearing two other hats as the coordinator and compere. First of all, I would like to invite you all to this program. It brings me immense pleasure to convene today's gathering as we celebrate International Women's Day and explore into a significant dialogue centered around empowering women with a particular focus on leadership. This program stands out as a unique, innovative initiative for our Tamil Sangam community. We have curated a panel comprising accomplished women leaders from diverse fields and backgrounds, promising an insightful and enriching experience for all our members. On behalf of MTS, our executive committee, and myself, we extend heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists who will be introduced shortly, Ms. Julie Warren, Ms. Angela Callaway, Ms. Laura Misumi, and Dr. Kathleen Edem-Shark. We eagerly anticipate learning from their remarkable journeys and gaining valuable insights. Let us draw inspiration from these exceptional leaders. I am fortunate to lead with the support of an executive committee that wholeheartedly embraces such new and innovative endeavors as programs. This program format will be: following my opening remarks, we will have Tamil Thai Valthu. Next, our event coordinator will deliver the welcome address, followed by the introduction of the panelists and a lively question and answer session with them. We will then engage in general discussion if needed before concluding with a vote of thanks from our Joint Secretary. Now, let us start the program with our Tamil Thai Valthu.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிதில் தெற்கனமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
அடுத்ததாக next we will invite our event coordinator Rekha for delivering the welcome address. Rekha Veeraraghavan.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, everyone. I'm more than happy and excited to welcome everyone who have joined here for this wonderful event, Women's Day Celebration 2024. First of all, I'm an immense pleasure welcoming our honorable chief guests who have given their wonderful time to share about their great journey and experiences in their own professional field and also some personal challenges in their career growth. I welcome you all. Next, I would like to thank and welcome our Michigan Tamil Sangam President, Mr. Suresh Parniyandi, for creating us this opportunity to celebrate women through this wonderful event to happen. Along with him, I also want to invite my beloved co-executive members of Michigan Tamil Sangam who always grant their great support in putting up an event. Finally, I welcome all our dear MTS members who always show their love and support in making our community event grand success every time. You educate a man, you only educate a man. You educate women, you educate a generation. With this lovely quote, I welcome you all one more time to enjoy the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Rekha. Now it's time to introduce our esteemed guest to the audience. I now invite Rekha again for introducing Lara.
Lara Masumi is an on-site workers' right attorney and recovering nonprofit executive, daughter of revolutionaries, tentatively back on the path to movement work from burnout. She is currently serving as General Counsel for Resilient Strategies, LLC, a company providing administrative and operation back-end support for movement organizations across the country. She has previously served as Rising Voices, a project of the Center for Empowered Politics, founding executive director, managing director at Detroit Action, as a labor and employment attorney for SEIU Healthcare Michigan, what is now Take Root Justice representing day laborers and domestic workers, and as the Home Care Law Fellow at SEIU International. She cares deeply about systemic change and the ways we will go about it. She was born in San Francisco, California, grew up in Massachusetts, currently lives in New Mexico, with stops in Michigan, DC, and NYC. Along the way, I welcome you, Ms. Laura.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Rekha. Now I call upon Ram Durai for introducing our next panelist.
Good morning, one and all. I'm Ram Durai Balasubramanian, one of the event coordinator in this MTS executive committee. So I'm so honored and proud to introduce Ms. Julie Warren. She's a renowned detective in our Novi Police Department. She had been a police officer for more than 18 years of experience. 6 years ago, she took in charge of detective, handling the public safety for the schools. Julie Warren takes care of preschool to 8th grades, and her office is in Novi Middle School. She had been born and raised in East Lansing. She's a Michigander. She graduated from Saginaw State Valley University in the year 2001. She's a soccer player, represented the university. She loves her job to the core, and she's a proud Michigander. She leads one of the unique program in Novi. It's Novi Police and Fire Youth Leadership Academy. That program is it's a great initiative for the youth. This happens during the summer for the middle and high school kids. And she also trains and prepare our next generation kids. Thanks a lot, Ms. Julie Warren, for joining us in this prestigious MTS Women's Day event today. We all welcome you once again to this event.
Thank you, Ram. That's a very nice introduction, and we are thanks to Julie for joining today. And I will invite Radhika for introducing our next chief guest.
Hi everyone, good morning. Council member Angela Whitfield Galloway is a lifelong Detroiter who proudly serves the Detroit City Council for District 2. Before becoming elected, she enjoyed a career as an adult education instructor, human resources administrator, hearing officer, and small business owner. Council member Galloway graduated from Cooley High School, received a Bachelor of Arts in English and Education from Spelman College in Atlanta, GA, earned a law degree from Detroit College of Law, and graduated from the Campaign School of Law. Council member Galloway advocates fearlessly for quality education, safer and cleaner neighborhoods, and improvements in the quality of life for the underrepresented citizens of Detroit. Council member Galloway has dedicated countless service hours as a Census Bureau numerator and canvasser. Council member Galloway is a true grassroots leader who has centered her life on civic engagement and service and leadership. We would like to invite you for this event and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Council Member. Thank you, Radhika, for a nice introduction. And next, I would like to invite Mahalakshmi Sridharan, our Youth Committee member, for introducing our next panelist.
Good morning, everyone. Our next chief guest is Dr. Kathleen Yaramchuk, MD. She's the senior staff physician in the Division of Sleep Medicine at the Henry Ford Hospital. She is a professor at the Wayne State University School of Medicine and professor at the Michigan State University School of Human Medicine. She has graduated from the University of Michigan's Medical School. Dr. Kathleen has held several leadership positions. Namely, she's the past president of the American Academy of Otolaryngology, also known as head and neck surgery. Dr. Yaramchuk also guides other Henry Ford Medical Group physicians in providing efficient, patient-centered care through her role as the chair of the Henry Ford Board of Governors and chair of the Henry Ford Health System Quality and Safety Committee. We are very glad that she's joining us today and sharing her professional and leadership experiences.
Thank you, Dr. Kathleen, and thank you, Maha, for a nice introduction. And now let's move on to the question and answer session. From my side, I welcome you all once again, and thanks for accepting to be here with us today. The first question for the panelists, I will start with Ms. Angela. Please share details about your childhood, including your place of birth, upbringing, schooling, educational background, and the support and motivating factors provided by your family and teachers. We want this aspect, especially on the motivating factors that made you to be a leader. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, and good morning. And happy 49th anniversary on your founding. And I really admire you and congratulate you on your determination to preserve your language, your arts, and your culture. And I did a little research. Your language is like over 5,000 years old, and just looking at it, the penmanship and it looks like art. So congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
I was one of 5 children. 2 of my siblings are deceased. My parents migrated to Detroit from Mississippi in the mid-1950s for better opportunities and to start a family. They were newlyweds when they came. My dad served in the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, and he was honorably discharged. We grew up in Detroit. There were opportunities here for to work in plants or to work in manufacturing. And he knew that he wanted to provide a decent upbringing for his children that he knew he would not be able to provide in Columbus, Mississippi. Columbus, Mississippi was a very racist and still is little town outside of Jackson and near the Alabama state line. And his determination to start a family where he would have limitless opportunities that brought him here to Detroit. My siblings and I grew up on the west side of Detroit. We all went to different high schools. You can still go to different high schools. You're not confined to going to a particular high school just because it's your neighborhood high school. You have a choice to which high school you want to attend. So 2 of my siblings graduated from Cass Tech, one from Henry Ford and one from Murray Wright. And then I chose to graduate from my local high school, which was Cooley High School. I went on to Spelman College, was an all women's school in Atlanta, Georgia, a private school, was founded by 2 women, Quakers from Massachusetts. And it was funded by Rockefeller, John Rockefeller, and it was named after his wife, Laura Spelman. I received a bachelor's in education and secondary education in English. I was planning to return to Detroit to teach, which I did, and then decided to go to law school because I was interested in the law. I enjoyed reading about the law. And I knew that if I was going to make any changes returning home, I would have to have a knowledge of the law in my own community. And so I decided to go to law school and to use that degree in employment and human rights and civil rights with Detroit Public Schools for about 12 years. I was an investigator. And after that, I just in 2021, during the whole ordeal with the murder of George Floyd, I was just very, very concerned about what was happening in my own community. I'd always been interested in politics and interested in having a better quality of life, not just for myself and my 4 children, but everyone. And I knew that I had a voice, and I just felt like I wasn't using that voice in the most productive way. And the only way I could see using that voice and making a difference in my community was to get more involved in politics. And after the murder of George Floyd, and I saw what was happening in downtown Detroit and how some of the protesters were being mistreated, I decided to get involved. And I had some of my children get involved with the whole movement of speaking up, speaking loud, and making their voices heard. And I decided to run for city council because that election was coming up in 2021. Had never run for a political office in my life. In Detroit, it's really hard to unseat an incumbent. He was a 27-year retired police officer, had also served in the military. And everyone was telling me that it would be very difficult for me with no name, no money, to unseat an incumbent. But I'm here today as having unseated an incumbent. And I'm in my 3rd year of a 4-year term, planning to run for re-election in 2025. And I represent the largest district in the city of Detroit. I have the largest voting block in the city of Detroit. I represent one of the wealthiest districts in the city of Detroit. And if we were considered a city, my district would be the 8th largest city in the state of Michigan. I have the largest voting block in the state of Michigan. There's no other city that has more residents registered to vote compared to my district. So I have a very politically astute district. I have a very educated and wealthy district. And I don't know if you all are familiar with Detroit. I represent an area called Sherwood Forest, Palmer Woods, Palmer Park, Bagley, University, Detroit, and Fitzgerald. Those are very historic areas. I have the University of Detroit Mercy down the street. I have Mary Grove College, which is now a conservancy. It has a pre-K through high school. It's no longer a college. It's settled. It's situated right smack in the middle of my district. I have 4 high schools in my district. I have several elementary schools and middle schools in my district. So I have a huge district. And I'm just very happy to be here. And I'm so happy that I was selected to be a panelist. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is what a great achievement and honor to have you. And we really commend how you are standing up for the community. Thank you so much. And I will next invite Laura.
Thank you
for
so much,
answering the same
everyone.
question. Yeah.
Okay, great. So my name is Laura Misumi, and as my intro stated, I can explain a little bit further. I'm Yonsei, Japanese American, which means that I'm 4th generation. So my great grandparents immigrated to the United States in the early 1900s to California, which is where I was born. And then that also means that my whole family was in the United States during World War II and was incarcerated in concentration camps for much of the war. And I think that when you mentioned something about motivating factors and educational background, a lot of
Yeah.
that for me comes from my grandparents. They were part of a group of college age Nisei second generation, who were able to get out of the camps early to finish their education. So my grandfather was able to get his MBA at UT Austin, and my grandmother was able to finish her bachelor's at Boston University. So that's ultimately how my grandparents ended up on the East Coast. And so after, being born in San Francisco, we moved to Massachusetts to be closer to my mother's parents. And I think being really grounded in community and knowing the experiences of my family and my community was really important, is a motivating factor, not only for educational attainment, but also in terms of the pursuit of social justice and being able to recognize that what happened to the Japanese Americans was not, kind of a singular oops in the course of history in the United States, but really was one symptom of the facets of white supremacy and oppression that pervade the history of the United States. And I think that was incredibly important foundational values for me to take into my education and help me pursue opportunities for leadership and service. So I grew up in Massachusetts. My cousin went to the University of Michigan, and so I wanted to go as well. And that's how I ended up at U of M in Ann Arbor for my undergrad degree, where I majored in political science and Latin American and Caribbean studies, and also Asian Pacific Islander American studies. And it was also in Michigan where I first began, thinking about careers in organizing, in movement work more seriously. Professor Marcus, who was a professor in the political science department, taught classes on community organizing. A lot of my colleagues when I worked in Michigan went through those same classes and did a lot of organizing through the Detroit Action Commonwealth, and that ultimately became Detroit Action, where later I worked after I came back to Michigan. And after I graduated, I did a number of, youth organizing fellowships before going to law school, where I wanted to become a labor and employment attorney and work with labor unions. I really believe that if you are a worker, you deserve a union and you deserve to have a vehicle for harnessing the collective power of all working people coming together. And that's something I care deeply about, and trying to figure out ways that we can bring that same collective spirit around organizing for our rights to other spaces, such as community organizing. So after practicing for a number of years, I did end up taking on a role within a community-based organization in Detroit called Detroit Action, which organizes Black and Brown folks in the city for housing and economic justice. And it was through that collaboration and partnership, and along with some of the amazing Asian American leaders in Michigan, including Senator Stephanie Chang, along with a number of other folks, that we started Rising Voices. And ultimately, I became the executive director. I was originally on just the board. And the goal of that organization is to really organize and develop the leadership capacity of the Asian American community in Michigan, particularly for women and families. And that is the role that I'm incredibly proud of because there's not much like it. And I think, there are so many amazing, incredibly diverse Asian American communities in Michigan. The Michigan Tamil Sangam is an excellent example of this. And I think being able to build out a space for Pan Asian American organizing is something that I feel really strongly about. And so I think, all this to say, being grounded in my own family's history and being able to connect that to the history of so many other folks in the United States was a really important motivating factor for me.
Thank you. Awesome for your background to hear that, you are on right track to voice the opinion of Pan-Asians. And thank you for joining us today. And all the struggles that women go through, as I know, normally when they start their life in a new place, and it is more difficult, in an environment where there is more challenges for women. So I think maybe because of their ethnicity or what, we cannot pinpoint it, but sometimes it may be a cause. Thank you for your efforts. And next, I will move on to Dr. Kathleen. Please tell about your childhood.
Thank you. Good morning, and I appreciate being asked to participate in this event this morning. There are so many talented individuals on the call that it's a little bit humbling. I'm going to say my story began with my grandparents, who were immigrants, and they immigrated from the Ukraine. Obviously, the Ukraine is in the headlines now about problems, and it's a country that the borders tended to shift depending on which country was going to take part of that land on what day. So it's not unusual to once again be having part of the country being annexed by someone else. They were immigrants. My grandfather came in through the port of Cleveland, my grandmother through New York, Ellis Island. She was a maid. He ended up working at the Rouge plant. Many people moved to Detroit as part of the immigration and getting jobs in factories. My mother ended up marrying her next door neighbor, who is my father, and he actually worked at the Rouge plant, and she was a nurse. In those days, she graduated from Cass Tech High School, and she began a degree program at Mercy Hospital, where she got her nursing degree. I was the first one in the family to go to college, get a degree. I went to the University of Michigan. I was in the 6-year medical program, which means it was undergrad and graduate combined to get an MD degree. And then I went to the University of Chicago for residency in otolaryngology, head and neck surgery. I came back to Detroit. That was my home, and that's where my family was, and started working at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. I ended up becoming chair of the department. If we talk about gender equity, medicine and particularly surgical subspecialties, there aren't a lot of women. So when I became chair, I think there were 96 academic departments, and there were 4 female chairs at the time. 15 years later, there are 15 chairs, but there's also 120 departments. So there hasn't been a great deal of change in terms of leadership and gender equity in that area. At the Henry Ford Medical Group, I became the chair of the Board of Governors. There's about 1,800 physicians, and so I was responsible for that. I was the first female in 100 years to lead that, as well as to be the first for the Hospital Med Executive Committee. As such, I have embraced, I'm going to say, gender equity in medicine and in surgery particularly, and within the Henry Ford Health, to mentor, sponsor, and be an ally for those individuals that wish to attain leadership responsibilities and goals as such. I do that on a national level for our surgical specialty, and then within the organization for women that are chief medical officers or new chairs in terms of how to navigate and be successful in their areas.
Thank you so much. It's really heartening to see, how you spearheaded being a chair for a department as a woman leader, and also, you inspired a lot of people. I know I'm in the field. I know a little bit about how hard it is to raise to the level. You have to be really, really exemplary personality in that field. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. And now we will ask Miss Julie to share her experience as a child and how she became a detective.
Hello, everyone. I feel so honored to be a part of such an established panel. I grew up in a pretty traditional childhood. I grew up with my parents in East Lansing and my brother and sister. Actually, I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. They've been there for 43 years now. I attended East Lansing High School, and then I graduated in 2001. Well, as already mentioned, soccer has been a big, huge part of my life. And so when I was in high school, I played soccer quite a bit, where I was led to be captain of my team and most valuable player of my team. From there, I went on to Saginaw Valley State University, where I again then played soccer. My senior year, I was captain of my soccer team and then was awarded the leader of the year, which was the leader of the year was such a great honor for me because I was voted by my teammates. Then my last semester of Saginaw Valley, I was lucky enough to go to Delta Police Academy, where I was 3 girls among many men, and I graduated first of my class. And then after graduating from the police academy and from Saginaw Valley State University with my bachelor's degree, I was one of 70 applicants for a position with the Novi Police Department, and I was chosen out of 69 other people I beat out. I've been there now for 18 years and I've been a detective. I've worn many hats at the police department. I'm very active in my community with the police department. One of the things I found, a couple things really rewarding as I was part of the crisis intervention team. I truly enjoyed when people are in crisis to be a part of a team where I could go out and try to help support people, help them kind of talk them out of maybe taking their own life and finding other solutions for things. Because sometimes, a lot of times we'll say, well, someone's in crisis, we need to hospitalize them, when that's not always the right answer. Another thing that I took great pride in is that I was a field training officer. So I was able to help lead and mold and guide our future police officers. I am in my favorite role now. I had always wanted to be a detective, but I knew I got into police work because I wanted to work with our youth and I wanted to find ways to empower them and be role models for them. And so I've been a school resource officer, as been mentioned, now for 6 years, and I have over 7,000 kids that I try to help influence and guide and put in the right direction. I have been married to my husband for 14 years, and I have 2 boys myself. They're in 7th and 4th grade. Very active in their sports, which I love, obviously, because I love soccer and other sports. My biggest supporters were my coaches, my teammates, and my parents. My parents were certainly nervous when I was going into the profession of being a police officer. Typically, when people become police officers, there are other family members that were police officers, but not for me. I just knew I always wanted to do it. And so I'm lucky to have such a supportive community and supportive family.
Wow, what a incredible journey you had. And it is, as you rightly said, it's the family and your coaches and colleagues and who supported you. And thank you for that insight, So for among us, we always should encourage our women colleagues, whenever they are trying to be in the leadership position. That's something learning from your story. Thank you. And now I call Radhika to ask the next question to the panelist.
Hi, it is really inspiring for us to know like what are the hurdles you have been gone so far. But I really want to know, how did you decide to pursue your current profession, and when did you choose to take on leadership role, and what are the steps you take to prepare yourself for the leadership role? Could you please answer?
So I think we can start with Julie now. So we can go reverse order.
So I knew from a very young age I wanted to be a police officer. There was truly nothing else that I wanted to do. I like the aspect of being a team player. I like the aspect of being a leader in my community. And obviously I enjoy being the one that's going to go help someone in a crisis. I feel like there's a few things that helped me prepare myself for this. I know that I was one that always set goals for myself. So I wanted to be a captain of my college team. And so that was a goal of mine. And then when I was in my hiring process with the police department, my last final hiring interview was with my chief of police. And he had asked me, he said, Julie, what are your 5-year goals? And I said, well, I want to be police officer of the year within 5 years. And somehow, some way, I was nominated and I was Police Officer of the Year after 3 years, beating out, other men and women that have been there for 20 to 25 years. So I was, like I said, I set goals for myself and I worked towards those goals. Another thing that I did is about 10 years ago, my police department sent me to a Women's International Leadership Conference in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And there I felt way out of my league. I was surrounded by chiefs from all over the country. I was around some really established women. And one thing that I took away from that is if you ever have a chance to take on a big role, take on that big role. So from there, I started running our Novi Palooza, which we bring in, it's a citywide open house, over 2,000 people. And it gives people insight of seeing our entire city, but seeing how the police department and fire department work. From there, I took on many other things, including my youth academy, that we had been doing the same thing for probably 20 years until my chief said, hey, can you change things up a little bit? And we did. And last year I graduated 50 youth in my community, which I thought was just absolutely amazing. So I guess, again, if I could just say, I just always want to be a police officer and set goals for yourself. And then if you have opportunities to take on big roles, take on those big roles. I think that when looking back, I say, what one thing or two things or three things that I do, I don't really know. I just know I've always been very good to people, and I've always been very willing to step up when others don't. And I just really embrace our community and try to get them involved.
Okay. Very nice to know that. I think you pictured your journey from your goal, your desire to be a police officer, to how you took up roles when it came along, and you capitalized, and now you are a detective and you're as a youth icon also. Maha, do you want to share some of your views on how the course was, like the youth academy that you had with Julie?
So, thank you everyone for talking about your achievements in the past. It was really wonderful to hear. So the Youth and Fire Academy, it was really interesting. We had to do a lot of teamwork. We went to many different places and we had to brave our own fears so that we can come in and take charge as a leader. And we would do this for 5 consecutive days each. So one day we'd stay at the Police Fire Academy, the other day we'd go to the fire station, and then we learn every little thing about their career. And it's really interesting to see how it was. The detective and every officer who helped us through this was really amazing. They were really supportive. They made sure that none of us were hurt. So in case if we did were feeling fatigued that day, they let us sit down and all. And it was physically daunting to do most of those, but I would recommend it for anyone who wants to take it.
Thanks, Maha, for your experience. This is what we want, actually, like Julie, who was the leader, and you are a beneficiary from that leadership skill in our community, and we wanted to spread to other community members and girls. And one of our agenda for our committee was integrating with the society. We traditionally do programs for the panelists. I want to say that Tamil culture, literature, which we are very proud of. At the same time, we want to interact with other community leaders and community members and integrate with them. That is one of our goals. So thanks for today, all of you, that, it is really a nice event that recapitulates what we wanted to present to our community. Thank you for that. And now we will ask Kathleen about her experience on this.
I think it's very similar to what you heard. In some ways, my first position, I was put as a division head of a clinic, and specialty clinic, ENT. And the thing was, I was the only one in the clinic at the time. So I kind of laughed and said, what's the big deal about this? But what it did was that it got me to meetings. And so I would go to meetings where there were more senior people there. You began to network. They began to know who you were. And I started to lean in or raise my hand. And much like Detective Warren, no job was too small, no job was too big. You volunteer, you ask, you can do it. I usually tell people take the worst job there is, because if you make it better, you're a genius. And if you don't move the dot at all, people will just say, well, it was an impossible situation and nobody could have done better. But at least you're still there, showing that you're willing to show up and you're willing to work. Many times I challenged what status quo was. The American Academy of Otolaryngology started in 1894, and until 2004, there had never been a female president. But there was a group of women that started meeting, and it grew to the Women in Otolaryngology. And once they became a section, and there were 2,500 members, in 10 years, there's been 4 women that have been elected to be president. And so once again, the idea of allyship, of mentorship, of sponsorship, that you're able to move the dot and to get things done. Applying for chair at Henry Ford, I had never really thought about becoming chair of a department, but I also knew I didn't want to work for anybody that was less competent than myself. And I decided it is up to the committee to decide if I'm the best candidate, and it's not up to me to self-select that I'm not the best person for it. I've chaired several search committees since then for department chairs, and have gone out of my way to make sure women were included in the process and to be part of the selection. Harvard Business Review has an article that says if there is one woman in the selection pool, they have a 0% chance of being chosen. And so the token female, the token minority candidate is never going to be successful. So making sure people understand there's a diverse community in Detroit and that we need to include that is very important to me.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. And we really get to know that, after you get education, your job is not done, right? You have to keep on growing. And for that, being a woman, sometimes it may be challenging, and you raised through the chair level, and you also made sure that that is taken care across the board, and you brought more women chair, at least in your organization and throughout America, that being a chair of American Academy of Otolaryngology, which is really a commanding fact that we all can take from you. Thank you so much. And Laura?
I think, unlike everyone else, I can't say that I had a lot of goals. And like my path to this career or taking leadership roles was something that I had planned for myself or really, I certainly not. And I think, honestly, a lot of my decision making is grounded in my values and my experience and how I have seen things in the world play out. And so I remember graduating from the University of Michigan in 2009 when President Obama had just been elected, and it was it felt like a really pivotal time in terms of getting more folks involved in community organizing. And I think I had come to the idea that organizing and trying to build up collective means of building power in our communities was something that I really wanted to be a part of. And so following graduation, I did a couple of different organizing internships and really wanted to do that as well. And I think I had a mentor in one of my first internships after college that who told me, for folks who have access and who have education and class privilege, being able to think about different ways of using and engaging with that privilege and that access is a really important thing too. So I think at that point as well, I started thinking about going to law school. I had thought about it a little bit in college, but I didn't, I was not like, oh, I really want to be an attorney. So I think, that kind of really pushed me over the edge to seriously consider it. And once I became an attorney, a lot of the motivating factor for me was that the law is generally not on the side of the people who have the least amount of power, money, or access, right? And so I think being able to become an attorney because there are not enough attorneys on our side was something that was really motivating for me. I actually, when I first came out to Detroit, was let go from my attorney position in Michigan. And so I think at that point also presented me with a crossroads of what I was going to do with my life. And so I think remembering and relying and leaning on my community and networks at the time that I had built through being involved in organizing, through having really strong values-based relationships is what put me on the path towards being in leadership roles in other nonprofit organizations, including at Detroit Action and then ultimately at Rising Voices. And so I think, it really is the culmination of all of my experiences that led me into a leadership role. And that to me is probably what has kept me humble and grounded and focused on problem solving, on trying to hold the details while also being able to zoom out and take the bigger picture. Yeah, not necessarily having the singular ambition to leadership, but really trying to find the best ways that I can serve.
Okay, awesome to know. I think what I take from you is that it's never late. Some of for instance, Julie was from the childhood. She was planning to be a police officer, but you after college, you kind of made the connections and the experiences which made you to be who you are today. So that is another lesson. We can always set our goal at any given point. Like a race. So another nice thing you said is that you just want to serve people, and the leadership thing just came along in your way. So I think this is an important note we all can take from your experience. Thank you for that. Now, Angela, can you share your experience?
Yes, thank you. I was listening to Maha, and she was talking about the fear that she experienced. And during the course of my career, whether it was as an educator or investigator with Detroit Public Schools, I've learned how to feel the fear, experience the fear, and do it anyway. And so over the course of my life, Maha, I have learned how to experience the fear, walk in it, but not let it paralyze me. And I think that's why I'm here today, because had I allowed the fear to keep me from pursuing this position that I'm in now, I wouldn't be sitting here as an elected official. So my words to you of wisdom is, you're going to always sense or feel fear in your life, but you don't want that fear to paralyze you and stop you from reaching your goals. You're going to feel the fear and do it anyway, because fear is the false evidence that appears real. That's how you overcome it, by looking at it in the face and doing that thing that's telling you in your head that you can't do it. Do it anyway. And that has been my mantra in my life. And running for office, it was a decision that I made with my family. And again, it goes back to that whole story about the George Floyd murder. I had 3 daughters who were arrested during that protest in downtown Detroit. I helped them make their signs. I drew the hands that says hands up. I helped them pack their backpacks. I helped them fill their water bottles. I made sure they had goggles and masks because I knew they were going to be pepper sprayed. But little did I know, the night that they were protesting, I would see one of my daughters handcuffed, sitting on a sidewalk in downtown Detroit, and I felt helpless. And my other 2 daughters were in jail simply for protesting what they believed was an injustice in our city. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to run for city council, because the person who was sitting in the seat prior to my running accused the protesters of having bricks and weapons and things that would hurt people. That was not the case, because I actually helped my daughters pack their backpacks. They didn't pack any bricks. They packed a water bottle, mask, and goggles. And that really propelled me to run for this office. I was just totally dissatisfied. And I said, if I'm going to see change in my community, I would have to be the change that I was looking for. The change is on the inside of us. It's not on the outside of us. It's in here. And whatever change you want to see, you have to be willing to be that change, to start that change, ignite that change in your own way. And I was just dissatisfied. And a lot of times we make decisions to do different things because of we're dissatisfied. We're not happy about our quality of life. And I wasn't happy about what I was seeing in my city, a city that I love, a city that my parents migrated here to raise their family. You know, I didn't come from a family of people who just came over here. I came from an enslaved people. My great-grandparents were slaves. They came to this country unwillingly, but we're survivors. So my great-grandparents picked cotton. My grandmother picked cotton. So I understand how to overcome because it's in my DNA to be a survivor and feel the fear of that thing, of the unknown, and doing it anyway. I owed it to my great-grandparents and their parents, and I owed it to my parents to do something meaningful with my life and my existence and not be on the sideline complaining. You can't win a game sitting on the sidelines. You have to get in the game to win. And that was my decision, is to get off the sideline, get off the bench, get in that game and win, and to make a difference in my own community. I may not make a difference in the whole world, but I can make a difference where I live. I can improve the quality of life, make my environment safer, cleaner, more welcoming, right over here on the west side of Detroit. So I would say that I got prepared by enrolling myself in the campaign school at Yale University because I wanted to be the best candidate. I was not getting in this race to lose. I was not listening to all the people who were telling me every day of my campaign that you're not going to win because Detroit votes on name recognition. Detroit always puts incumbents in office. You don't have any money. You can't run a commercial. You can't get on the radio. You're not going to be interviewed by Detroit Free Press or the Detroit News or the Metro Times or the Michigan Chronicle. Nobody's going to interview you because nobody knows who you are. But I enrolled myself in Yale University, and that was like a 6-week class online, working full-time, taking care of my dad, and campaigning. I never stopped working. I worked a full-time job and campaigned and went to school and took care of my dad. He was 90 years old. He just passed in 2022. So you have to look at the situation that you're facing, feel the fear, and do it anyway. And that would be my answer to the question. And thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I am in tears to know the hardships you went through. It's like you stood for people who need your voice, who need your support. And I'm really glad to know that how your parents, grandparents, and now you and your daughters, everybody, it's a family game, it seems. And thank you so much for the inspiring words. It's moved us, I think. And the audience would be really appreciate. Yeah.
Really a great lesson.
It was a really great lesson that you have given to me, Council Member Angela. I really appreciate the wise words of wisdom. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for this wonderful lesson that I will hopefully take with me forever.
Thank you, Maha. This is really nice, an youngster coming on your own and saying that truly inspiring words. And that is the idea, right? You really living an example. We want the youngster to be inspired by these leaders. Maybe a month ago, we never know what Angela is doing for the community, right? Today, we know that, right? And we can get inspired from such activities. So thank you so much. I think I did not introduce Radhika. Radhika is our Kadambam editor. Kadambam is a magazine from Quarterly Magazine from our organization, and she do an excellent job in organizing articles. And I think she's going to bring this as a women's edition, right, Radhika? Do you want to share something about it?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Angela. And you have told the city your father chose for your upbringing. For that, you came forward to make the difference. That quote really moved me a lot. Yeah, you have to come from the sideline. Yeah, that's a nice thought. First of all, thank you for inspiring us for the same. And in the prestigious organization Michigan Tamil Sangam, we are publishing a quarterly magazine called Kadambam. So this edition, we wanted to publish this as a women's special edition. So for that, we are collecting the articles from whatever mainly from women, and also what are the achievements we have seen in our community. So I just wanted to note to tell in this event for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Next, we will move on to the next question. I'm inviting Ram Durai to ask this question to the panelist.
Sure. Thanks, Suresh. Yeah, thank you so much, all of you. Julie, Kathy, Laura, and Angela. Yeah. So I think it's really a lesson. I feel like quickly want to add this is not only for women, I think it's for the whole community. It's really great inspiration. The next question. What challenges have you encountered since assuming this position and how you overcome them? Additionally, what aspects do you enjoy and dislike about your leadership role?
Yes. I think now I will go with Laura to start the question answer. So,
Okay, what what challenges and how do we overcome them? I think challenges are always ongoing in a lot of ways. I think a lot of what it means to be in a leadership role is being able to be in a position to see challenges as opportunities and try to figure out different ways for your organization or whatever situation you're in to try to meet those challenges and face them and acknowledge that not everything is going to turn out exactly as you had planned. I think that's mostly what I've taken away from my winding path to the role that I'm on is that being able to be flexible has been helpful for me in terms of meeting challenges. I think there have been a number of different challenges depending upon the role. I think when I was, at Rising Voices in a leadership role in the state of Michigan, I think being a new organization, not having the same illustrious history as the Michigan Tamil Sangam, for example, being able to try to carve out space in a state where I think oftentimes the conversation around race and politics and organizing tends to stay fairly black and white, and being able to carve out space for what does it mean to be Asian American in Michigan was a challenge. And I think that that's something that just takes time. And again, in facing systemic challenges and facing internal challenges within an organization, for me, it's always been about going back to the core values of why it is that I'm here, what is the work that we are trying to accomplish, and how can we best serve in light of the different things that we're confronting, right? So staying true to the values, staying true to our politics of solidarity, and recognizing that it can't just be about Asian Americans alone, but really Asian Americans as part of a community, all of the communities of color that are in the state, and being able to understand that so much of the work that we want to accomplish can only be accomplished in community and in relationship with other people and with other organizations. And I think more recently too, in my role as an attorney, there's a lot of working with organizations that aren't used to working with an attorney, and different, more internal work dynamics. I think a lot of challenges that we face we have to view them not as stumbling blocks so much as things that we just need to think through. It's not to say that to not give a challenge a negative connotation, but instead view it as an opportunity to think creatively and collaboratively. That's what I would say.
okay. Sorry, I think I was muted. Thank you, Laura. So I take the word that collaboration and challenges as an opportunity from your entire experience. So thank you for that wisdom. And now we move on to Director Julie for how you overcome your challenges. And
Well, I want to start by saying that a lot of what the Councilwoman Conaway said is, officers don't often talk about fears or talk about things that have happened. But one of the things is that I would say that there's a lot of times that I doubted myself. There's times where I'm like, I can't do this. And then I ended up being first in my class. When I entered the police academy, I had that fear, but it's like, this is what I want to do. I just got to do it. She also brought up Floyd, which is one huge challenge for me in my profession. I will tell you, when George Floyd happened, it was just all of us officers that I was around. We just had a hard time functioning with it. There's a lot of officers that are 20 years into the career that were in tears. There's bad apples in every profession, but that was certainly something that affected our profession immensely. So for me, a challenge is I understand that every student I come across has a different background, different fears of the police, come from all different ways, where I just try to really interact with them and have them realize that us police officers, there are good ones and there's bad ones. There's a lot more good ones than there are bad ones. And I just try to learn from their experiences and try to help guide them and just really build those relationships with them, where hopefully in the future, when they come across the police officers, they'll have a good experience and think back to the times that we had. But, again, it's the challenging of getting over your fears. And Maha, you did really well in that police academy, and I'm so proud of you and all that you have developed and come into the woman you are. And then again, it's just kind of, for me, it's challenging being a police officer. When I know I go out and do the right thing every day, I know I have the biggest heart and I try to interact with our youth and our community. And then something like Floyd happens, and it's still to this day really is something that is hard for us. So as far as what I dislike about my role, there's not a whole lot that I do dislike, but it is challenging because I am a type of person, especially with our youth, where I want to save them all and I want to fix all of their broken homes, and I want to fix everything I can, but I have to realize that I can't change certain things. Certain things are out of my control, but all I can do is be that role model or be that person when they come to school, that smile, or that positive person that I look forward to seeing every day.
thank you, Julie. It's really inspiring to see how one common thing that happen in a community will affect profession like yours, which is directly linked with public. So, and also the thing that you said is like we can fix everything, and we can try to be role model and helpful how much ever we can is another great lesson we can learn from. Thank you so much for that. And Kathleen, can you share your views on this?
Sure. I think we all know that there's unconscious bias, and sometimes I'm angry about the fact that it's called unconscious bias because it minimizes, much like microaggressions and all those things. There's clearly bias that exists for women when they apply for leadership positions. I look at the leadership surveys that are given, and they're male oriented, and so qualities that women have, like vulnerability, have been shown to be very powerful in the leader. And yet for these surveys and during interviews, that could be seen as weakness. And we all know that programs or companies that have female CEOs or on board of directors are more successful than those that don't. And yet it still is very, very difficult to break into those areas and to show the value that is brought by having women involved in the process at the highest levels. So it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to get angry, but that doesn't fix the problem. And so it's continuing to be part of the process, continuing to make suggestions so that women are accepted and their value is noted at every level. And so it's either the good news or the bad news, but none of our jobs are done at this point in time, and we have lots of opportunity going forward.
Okay. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights. I just want to ask you a question. So So in the field of medicine, like is it still the gap is getting reduced? Like what initiatives are taken to reduce the gender gap? You see yes is there, right? So, and
right now, 52% of medical students are female. But if you look in, I'm going to say academic medicine, at the instructor level, there's more women than men. At the very first rung of assistant professor, men outnumber women. And then when you go up to the professor level, it's even greater. And I think there is a professor of ophthalmology who said, at our current rate, it will not be equal until 2096. And many of the things that we've tried to do, just talking about it isn't going to make a difference. And so there have to be concrete processes that ensure that you have more than one female interviewing for a position, making sure that women are sought out and asked to serve in those areas. It's really hard. You know, I will never imagine myself as an NBA star because I've never seen a woman in the NBA. And for many positions in leadership, it's the same thing. If you never see someone that looks like you or sounds like you in those positions, you're never going to imagine that you could serve in that position. So we have to change that.
Okay, thank you. Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What challenges have I encountered since assuming this position? I think the decision-making challenge, because I have such a vast difference in my district. I have very, very wealthy district, and then I have a not so wealthy district. So I have two districts in one, a poor, and then I have a very wealthy, like the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, lives in my district. My congressman, Sri Thandadar, lives in my district. The mayor of the city lived in my district when he ran. I have a lot of the judges and doctors and teachers and principals in my district. So making decisions that are fair, not only to the wealthy population in my district, but those same decisions I make have to also benefit those who are not so wealthy. So I think that's the most challenging part of my job, is making those decisions that are going to benefit everybody. Now, everybody's not going to be happy with some of the decisions that I've made over the course of the 3 years that I've been in office, but I try to make them not from a political or elected official type of perspective. Every decision I make, I run it through a filter, and that filter is, I'm a taxpayer, I live in the city, do I want to pay for it? It's just that simple. How does it feel to me as a taxpayer and resident, lifelong Detroiter? How does it feel to me? And if it doesn't feel good to me in my heart, I vote no. And it's just that simple. So about maybe 4 months ago, I passed a law that says in Detroit, when you're here, the businesses have to accept your cash. There's a trend across the nation where a lot of the businesses and venues are going cashless. You can't use cash. That bothered me because I know there's a huge segment of my population here in the city of Detroit that just don't have bank accounts, or either unbanked or underbanked. So I said to myself, how can I not hurt those businesses who don't really want to accept cash, but help the people who don't have a bank account? So I helped write a law that was passed unanimously by my 8 colleagues and myself. It's called the Cashless Ban Ordinance in the city of Detroit, meaning if you have a business in the city of Detroit, you must accept cash. You have to give consumers an option. And so I drafted that law, and it was approved by the law department. It became effective on September the 11th, 2023. We drafted that law to say, one, to the business, we're not here to hurt the business, but we also want to benefit the consumer. And so if you have consumers who don't have a credit card, how can they support your business? We don't want you to, it was like a quiet discrimination. It was like an off the grid type of discrimination, because if you're telling one segment of the population, we do want your business, but you just can't use cash. What about the population that says, I only deal in cash, I don't have a bank account, or my bank account doesn't allow me to have a credit card because I don't have the credit, the credit card score or savviness. what do you do about them? So that has been the most challenging part, is that balancing act in politics. As I'm no politician, I consider myself as someone who got elected, but still lives in the same area where she was elected, but a taxpayer. And that's the filter that I use. And it's very challenging because everybody's not going to be happy with the decisions that you make. Everybody's not going to be happy with the laws that you support that do get passed. Somebody is not going to be happy. And again, I believe that's the most challenging thing of this job is people say, we're going to recall you, or I told you to vote this way. I'll put you in, I'm going to take you out. And so you hear that every single day. People call us, they badger us, they call us names. It's very hurtful because we're humans. So we have feelings as well, but they think that you are not human once you become a politician. But you really are. You have children, you have a family, and that impacts your family. So that's the challenging part, is making those decisions that everybody's not going to be happy with.
Okay. Wow. Again, another important lesson, right? When you are stepping out to serve in the community, we are serving in a small way, but I can sense what you are saying. It when we do some programs, certain things, it's not, accepted by everybody because there is a bias, right? So thank you so much for how you overcome a challenge by thinking broadly and as a taxpayer. So as a big tree, you start with a small seed, like that your thought is, like take it simple. If I'm a taxpayer, how I'm going to pursue this, so thank you for that insight. So now I think we will move on to the next question. I'm inviting Kannan to ask that question to the panelist.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suresh. Thank you so much, all our panelists. It's a life experience you are sharing with us. Really appreciate. So my next question is, what advice you offer to women and the next generation of leaders based on your experience?
Thank you, Kannan. So let's start with the advice from Kathleen.
I have a lot of advice, and one of it is not to get discouraged. It may be 2 steps forward and a half step back, but you're still making forward progress. It may not be as much as you'd like or as fast as you'd like, but if you're not there isn't going to be any progress at all. So you just need to continue to accept it and move forward and try your best. One of the things I always say is never take no for an answer. And it doesn't mean to be obstinate, but to ask the question, what would it take to make this happen? And I think, just as a councilwoman mentioned, you have to recognize there's always 2 sides to a story, but there's usually a middle ground. And if you put the interests of your community, if you put the interest of your patients, if you put the interest of those that you're representing forward, you're able to come to a decision that's better than what you started with. And so once again, it's easy, or it may seem aggressive to say never take no for an answer, but what it really means is, can we work together, and what would it take to make it happen?
Thank you for the short and sweet response. So you mean to say that, like, it's not easy to say no, but sometimes you have to say. So thank you. And I think, Kathy, your volume need to be raised. It was brought into attention by few of the panelists. So like, you can go into the volume button, you can increase it. Okay. I will move to Angela again for the next answering for this question about. So, Kannan, what was the question?
Yeah, sure.
Can you read?
Yeah. What advice would you offer to women and the next generation of leaders based on your experience?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. My advice to women and the next generation of leaders based on my experience is to read. I'm a reader. I love reading. If there's a subject that I'm interested in, I'm going to research and I'm going to read. We have to educate ourselves. And if there's a subject or issue that you're interested in, do some research and read about it. And your issues are going to change, weekly, monthly, yearly. The issues never remain the same. So I would, my advice would be to read. research, inquire. If there's an issue that you're interested in, research that issue. There's some organizations, I assure you, that support that issue, and get involved with that organization. If there's no organization that is leaning towards your issue, start the organization. Don't be afraid. Start a 501c3. If there are issues out there that nobody's talking about, but you're interested in it, that's your issue. And that's the biggest advice I could give to someone is, if there's an issue out there and you're interested in it, do the research, read about it, get in touch with those organizations that have involvement with that particular issue. And if there's no organization that out there that addresses the issue that you're interested in, start the organization. You can get funding. You can get other people who have that interest, like you, who are interested in that issue. Get involved with them. Start the organization. Don't wait on someone else to do something. You be the person to do something. You be the person to start that organization. You be the person that brings light to that particular issue. Like, for instance, I've started 2 task forces in the city of Detroit. One is the Youth and Civic Engagement Task Force. And Julie, I'd like to talk to you about what we're doing in Detroit with our youth. The second one is human trafficking. I'm very concerned about the number of kidnappings and missing children that are happening in Detroit. So because of that, I started the Youth Task Force. And because of that, I started the Human Trafficking Task Force in the city of Detroit. And because I'm interested in issues that face women, I started Detroit's Women's Commission. And I partnered with the mayor of Detroit, and he issued an executive order giving life and strength to my commission. So it's called the Detroit Women's Commission, and it's never been done before. We have one at the state level and the Wayne County level, but we had not had one in Detroit. But because of my interest in issues that affect families and women, those are the organizations or the commissions that I've started and the task forces. So again, if there's an issue that if it's the youth, find organizations that are supported or are focused on youth and development and civic engagement. And that would be my answer. Just educate yourself, read. And if that organization is not out there, you start it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So two words to sum up that, educate yourself, read, and get to know the problem and the issue that you are interested in. There may be 100 issues, in the world, but some of the issues that you are interested in, you had to advocate for that. You had to be self-started. Thank you for that wisdom. Yeah, it's very, very important and useful. And Laura, can you go next?
Sure. I mean, I think the advice that I would give is that it's okay to take your own path, and there isn't one way to do things. And I think it's more important. I agree with read and learn and don't take no for an answer. And I think how I would sum that up for myself is like, if you stay true and grounded in your values and where you come from, if you take then your learning to understand the world as it is, and also trust in your vision for what you believe the world should be, then that is how you can chart your path forward. I think speaking as a, I can't say I'm a young woman anymore, but as a kind of early to mid-career professional, I think something that I've come up against a lot is imposter syndrome, and really wondering a lot of times, am I qualified enough to sit at this table? Do I have enough expertise to have an opinion? And I think it is of vital importance, particularly for young women, to really trust that you do. If you have an opinion, it has been grounded in the research that you've done. You have built strong relationships within the sector. You know what the different dynamics are. Really trust those, and then and be able to take a critical view and a critical eye towards people who are telling you that you do not have that expertise or make you feel like you shouldn't be welcome. I think that that's something that I've confronted a great deal in my career in a number of different settings. And I think it's really, really of vital importance that whenever you have that nagging doubt, am I supposed to be here? Am I qualified? To remind yourself of what you know, of what you have, and who you are, and trust in that, I think, is what I would say.
Yeah, very nice. So this all we all go through that, at one time point that, should I really talk about that? Should I really raise this point? Am I qualified? This self-doubt comes, but if we really feel like that, this is an important issue that we need to raise our voice. Let's do it. That is, I think, called leadership. And I wrote, like when I had a difficulty as a leader, like we all go through, right? So that time I read a quote: leadership is also rejected by your people. Okay, it's not that they accept whatever you say. Sometimes it even getting rejected. You stand tall when people reject you and show that what is your value on that particular organization or the issue that you are concerned about is important. Thank you, Lara, for that key point. And Julie?
I would say, look for opportunities to improve, to excel, to grow, opportunities to serve others, and then be ready to take advantage of those opportunities when they come about. Don't be afraid to take those opportunities. I'd also say kind of if you know what you want to do, if you know you want to lead, then start preparing yourself earlier, whether it's reading, doing your research, whatever it might be, because once the opportunity comes, you want to show the steps that you've taken to be able to take on that new opportunity role. I'd also say, don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. We all have something to offer this world. We all have something that is unique to others, and we have to be not afraid to speak up and be advocates for ourselves.
Yeah. So be prepared for the opportunity. So that is, I once said somewhere that the definition of luck is when preparation meet the opportunity, that is called luck. So you really summed up that, you prepare for the opportunity and go and grab it. Thank you, Julie. And I think we are on the last question. I am going to invite Rekha for asking that question. And she said this is the favorite question she wants to ask you. So go.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. I'm just having a wonderful time really listening to all our four women leaders in here serving the community. And the question is very simple, but it's tricky too. So when it is asked to me who is your favorite woman in life, I just go and raise my hands and say it's my mom. But I'm just trying to tweak it a bit. Who is your favorite women leader, and what is the quality that inspired or admired you took from her? Who is your favorite women leader? That's the question.
Yeah, now we start with Julie.
Well, I really didn't I thought we were thinking about who our role model is, so I haven't really put much thought into a female leader. So I'm just going to stick with who my role model is. And I know you already said your mom, but it's my mom. My mom, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. She worked hard. She raised 4 kids. She never made us feel like we were a burden to them, even though I know times got very challenging for her and my family. But again, I guess I didn't put a whole thought in who my women leader is, but I'm just going to stick with my mom being my role model.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we can see that your mom has her instilled her values in you, and you are spreading it to everyone. Thank you so much for that. Angela?
Of course, my mom, but the leader or role model would be Dr. Rosa L. Gregg. Dr. Rosa L. Gregg was the first Black woman to serve 3 sitting presidents. She served Franklin Roosevelt, she served under Lyndon B. Johnson, and she served under John F. Kennedy. Now, her name is not a household name, but she also helped to start the Detroit Association of Colored Women's Clubs in Detroit, and it's still there. It was founded in 1941. It was founded in 1921, and they bought a clubhouse in 1941, which is still located at Ferry and Brush Street, which some people call the Cultural District. And when they bought the house, there was a restriction in the deed. It was called a covenant. And those homes on Ferry Street, if you all are familiar with downtown Detroit, is going toward Comerica Park, Wayne State, the DIA. And they called Black people back then in the 40s Negroes. So in the deed, it said that no Negro could lease, purchase or rent any of the homes on Ferry Street. Rosa Gregg was not planning to live in the house. She was planning to just use the house when it went up for sale as a clubhouse for where women could meet, because Black women or Negro women at the time were not allowed to meet downtown Detroit. They were forming women's clubs, which were real powerful in the 1940s across the nation, but they were not allowed to congregate downtown Detroit. So she only bought the house or planned to buy the house to use it as a clubhouse. And so because of the covenant in the deed, they had to take the address off the front of the house facing Ferry and put it on the side of the house. They closed the front door, and this is a true story. They closed the front door facing Ferry Street and opened up the side of the house as the main address, the entrance of the home. And I use her as my role model because she saw an obstacle and found a way to get around it. So she was allowed to purchase a house as long as she agreed not to allow Negroes to walk through the front door of the house and open up the side of the house and use that as the main entrance. So if you don't know her name, she passed in 1989. The site is still there. It's open for tours if you call. It's called the Detroit Association of Women's Clubhouse. And the street is named after her now, and that happened in 2020. And it's called Dr. Rosa L. Gregg Boulevard. And so I would have to say she is my role model because she saw an obstacle, didn't get discouraged, and found a way to still achieve what she wanted to achieve, but found a way to get around the obstacle. So my leader would be Dr. Rosa L. Gregg.
Thank you. I'm first time hearing. Thank you you have a lot of story, Angela. You should have been a great mom. Your kids would have had nice time to listen to all these stories. And it's really real examples that you are quoting here. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. Kathleen?
I have to go with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is one of the first female Supreme Court justices who worked tirelessly for gender equity, equal pay. She had a child. She did all this while her husband was being treated for cancer. And she was truly a light on the Supreme Court for many years, promoting women and promoting equity for them in the face of the law.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lara.
I think I would also have said my mom and my aunties. I think when we think about leaders in the broad sense with a capital L, there's a lot of folks that get left out of that conversation. And I think it is important that we do take time to honor and recognize all the different types of leadership that we see in our communities and how much of that really does come from within our own families and communities. And for me personally, I know that my mom and my aunt were critical in the National Coalition for Redress and Reparations, which was an organization, grassroots organization, made up of Sansei or third generation Japanese Americans, really pushing for the government to acknowledge, apologize, and make reparations to the Japanese American community for the incarceration camps of World War II. And so their activism and involvement coming from a really principle and values-based place around recognizing what happened to the Japanese Americans wasn't a singular event, but something that should be recognized, and that that recognition is only one step, I think was incredibly foundational for me. And being able to still have them in my life as inspirations and as kind of my North Star of how I want to be is something that's super important to me. But otherwise, if I were to recognize someone, a more public figure, Yuri Kochiyama has always been an incredible inspiration to me. She's Japanese American. She was born in the 1920s and was incarcerated during World War II, but had that experience fuel her activism in the 60s as part of a movement for Black liberation and to help politicize Asian Americans and the Asian American movement to be one that recognizes the importance of racial solidarity. And so she wasn't, necessarily the most prolific or profound theorist or speaker, but her actions spoke so much louder than words in a lot of ways. And I think that that's such a model of leadership that I aspire to as well.
Wow, what a beautiful way to say that, actions, not just words. Sometimes people talk sweet talks, and when it comes to action, they are behind. So it's really great to see that, you picked up the actions, people who show actions as their way of leadership. Thank you, Laura. And I think we are almost on the end of our program. And so I just will want to give 5 minutes or so that we talk among ourselves as a general discussion. If it is interest, I think if you want, among the panelists, if you want to ask or discuss some points that we have missed, and we can just touch upon that, and then we can have a thank you note and we can conclude that. So now it's a open panel discussion, or doubts, whatever you want to talk here. Please, let's start it. Yes, Maha.
I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate and really learn from the advice and the wise lessons from our esteemed panel of women leaders. And I have a question that has really resonated with me a lot, and I want to know what you guys would think about it. So, how do we keep a long-lasting motivation when at times we feel down or sad? And how do we self-motivate ourselves during those times?
Okay. Who wants to go first? Anybody? You can. Yes, Laura.
I can jump in on that. I have definitely experienced a lot of burnout and ended up, stepping back from formal employment for almost a year because of it. And I think that for one thing, it's super important to recognize sometimes you just don't got it. Sometimes that motivation is not there, and that's fine. You're a human being. There's going to be days where you feel super energized, ready to go, self-starter, taking the initiative, but there's going to be days where you're not, and that's fine. And I think it's really important to honor that and not to feel so much pressure to keep that at the forefront, but instead, be in tune with yourself and with your body, because the body keeps the score, your body knows if you're tired and you want to lie on the floor, which is what I do when I'm not feeling it. I think it's important to recognize and leave space for yourself and to give yourself grace. You might not, and sometimes you might have to tell your teams I can't, I'm not setting the agenda today, but this is what I can give. Maybe someone can assign me something. And I think also just recognizing that that's the natural flow of things. You're not always going to be at 100. You're certainly not always going to be at 110, and that's okay. And that's all part of it. And it isn't something to feel bad about, is what I would say.
Thank you, Laura. Anybody else want to add to that?
Thank you for the advice.
I guess I would only add is to find joy. And there's joy in a blue sky, there's joy in a flower, there's joy in the moon last night. And so find joy, and you don't have to set the bar very high. There's beautiful things that happen all around us, and stop the line, stop and smell the roses. Enjoy small things around you, let it bring you joy, and not everything is a battle.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure in little things. Yeah, a nice way to put it. Okay. Any other questions or comments from anybody else?
I have a question to go on.
Okay.
So we are growing in our career too, right? And we also have our family lives involved. So what advice that you give us to balance both our professional and personal lives? How do you handle it, or how we have to balance both of these things? If anybody can just give us a piece of advice.
Yeah, that's an important question. Okay, your family is important, and your profession as well as your leadership skills also need time and investment. So, yeah. Anybody?
I'll say that I'm still trying to find that balance. But I think that one thing I'm trying to do is to realize it's okay to say no to things. and to delegate. I'm trying to encourage other officers and try to mold them and guide them kind of to start getting more involved in the community and taking on roles and things that I do. So I'm still working on that, but I'm really trying to learn to say no to things, and that I need to be at my kid's sport event, or I need to be at this, or be home and spend some family time, because we spend more time at work. And again, I'm lucky enough to enjoy my work every day, but we have to realize that we still have a family and still need to have a good balance. So.
Okay, thank you. Angela, you have anything, because you start from your grandma time, like.
We women know how to juggle. We know how to carry a baby and still work. We know how to carry a baby and still get the house cleaned up. We know how to carry a baby, get the house cleaned up, go to work, and take care of other children. We know how to give birth to things. And so my advice would be, you don't have to be perfect. And like Julie said, learn how to say no, learn how to delegate. But we women, we know how to juggle. We're born jugglers. We know how to multitask. And I think that's just a gift that women have innately. We just know how to get it done. We know how to mother. We know how to manage. We know how to do all of it. But do we have to do it perfectly? No. Can we say no? Yes, we can say no. And I've learned how to say no. I mean, I get a slew of invitations to different events and meetings, and I thought I had to attend all of them, but I don't. That meeting is going to go on without me, not unless I'm the guest speaker, but that meeting is going to go on without me. So my advice would be, learn how to say no and continue to juggle, but it doesn't have to be a perfect juggling. And prioritize. What is it that I have to do? What is it that I don't have to do? What can wait, right? So it would be managing your schedule and your priorities and learning how to say no.
Okay, the priorities is the word, I think. Balancing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Julie and Angela, for getting me that insight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's officially, we are at the end, and officially Kannan, being a joint secretary, will come and give the thank you note now. Kannan, please come and give the thank you note.
Yeah. Yes, Suresh. Thank you so much. It's okay. Yeah.
And I have one last question to Ms. Kathleen. Like, as it is like Women's Day, just physically and mentally also, how can we balance our life? Like, just a general question, like.
Kathleen, she wants you to answer the question.
Yeah, I think it's a learning curve for everybody. And it's one of those things. I always felt, we talked about the imposter syndrome, but when I was with my family and they were young, I always felt I should be at work. And when I was at work, I always felt I should be with my family. And so it's one of those things that it's very difficult to say I'm in the right place at the right time. And I think our electronic world with texting, with emails, with all of those things makes it even more difficult, because you really can't, be fully focused on one thing. And I think many studies have shown, the whole idea of multitasking is you're doing many things, but you're not doing them all very well. So I certainly encourage people to be mindful, and when they're in a certain place and they want to get something accomplished, put all of yourself into that and spend time there. And there's only one of us, and so it's okay. And succession planning, lots of people out there to do what we do, and make sure that you grow people so that they can take your role and spread the good that everyone here is doing.
So much.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, Kannan, back to you. Please proceed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Suresh. So we are in the end of this program. So we would like to have, that's a thank you note. Just I want to say, first of all, I would like to thank our wonderful panelists for their time and then valuable insights. And also, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our executive committee for organizing this great event. Finally, my heartfelt gratitude to our members and viewers for watching this event online today. Thank you so much all. Nandri, vanakkam.
Vanakkam.